Anita, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah,
It's
of
great to
course. How
have.
are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited to have a chance to have an actual conversation about typology
Oh,
instead of
okay.
just through the keyboard because I don't have many people in real life that I can
Right.
chat with about it. So I'm grateful for the chance to do it
Yeah.
here in
Yeah, thanks for
cold,
coming out. Yeah.
here in frigid Wisconsin. I have my tea,
All
keep
right.
my hands warm.
So you were telling me you're a bit of an analyst during the day?
Yes, by day, I'm in front of the spreadsheets analyzing the things that upset customers.
Right.
So I sometimes feel like I need an exorcism at the end of the day.
Right.
All the voices of the customers in my head, because I listen to their survey comments, the audios, and I analyze the documentation of the phone calls and so forth. And I make infographics and I write a newsletter about it for the company. So that's what occupies my days. It also feeds in a little bit to my interest in
Right.
typology. And then I have a couple of side hustles as well, because I guess that blast internal energy just likes to do
Yeah,
side
start
hustles too.
start new things and yeah. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of a unique animal setup that I haven't come
Uh-huh.
across yet. I'm sure there's other people. It's just you're the first person that I've had a conversation with
Hmm.
about it. So you're like
Yes,
you're blast, sleep, consume.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
so that makes you the most introverted blaster type of
yes,
thing. Yeah.
it makes me really weird. I'm sure Eric Strauss would throw me in his type jail
Right.
uh, because I don't fit.
Right.
Um,
You
if he,
seem you seem like an IP more than are you an IJ or an EJ?
yeah, I always test as IJ in any of
Right.
the systems. Last week I took Eric Thor's, and I was INTJ reviewer subtype, which kind of makes sense because
Okay.
that emphasizes the TE. I think in his system, TJ is a separate function.
Right.
So it actually meshes pretty well when I'm talking to normal people who don't know anything about OP. I just say INTJ-ish because that seems to, you know,
Okay.
makes sense to them. If I say
Right.
ESTJ, they would kind of
So
think
so
that's
then you're
very
an
weird.
ESTJ.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, but not in any normal sense of the term,
Yeah,
which is
that's
why I would.
crazy.
That's why I would get thrown in type jail. But hopefully, Dave and Shannon would
Yeah.
put up bail for me, or maybe they get thrown in jail too, and we could hang out together,
Right.
which would be even
So
more
so
fun.
you
But
still you still have the self tribe issues. You seem like an IP,
uh-huh.
but you're an EJ. That's really
No, no, totally. I've always I took my first test way back when I graduated college. I majored in English, and this was before I knew anything about MBTI, and it said INTJ, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like I'm such a dork. I thought I was
right.
getting past the dorkiness, but guess not. But it makes sense that fresh from being an English major, I would get that result. But a few years ago with Kiersey, my employer brought in a Kiersey consultant, and I was INFJ in that system. So it's always IJ. I never get anything other than
Wow. So yeah,
IJ. So
but you do see yourself with the self tribe issues?
yes, I mean, it's
Yes.
getting better with age,
Right.
especially as, my children are getting older and I can focus more on myself. The need for significance is certainly in competition now with my other top two needs. So I get to indulge in that a lot more now.
Right. And do you
So
see yourself as tribe over self?
yes, yeah, yes, definitely. That with my inferior FE, quite often, I just default to what the other person needs and wants
Right.
without sticking up for myself so much. And one of the common criticisms of me, like in a workplace setting, is I'm too soft spoken in meetings. That I need to speak up more,
Right.
which
You're lead
traditional
TE
ES. So a
and it's a
traditional ESTJ would never get a
right.
criticism like that. They'd be
Yeah,
told
yeah.
to dial it down a little bit.
Yeah,
So
to shut up. Yeah. But
yeah,
okay, but is it it's a feminine TE then?
it is not, but
No.
uh, but I but there. See, that's the other thing. I don't. It's really. like I told Dave and Shannon, I think I made an OP graphic about this a month ago, that I'm more of a lowercase meek and mild, because the that doesn't really resonate with me at all. I'm not smashing on the outside world. I'm not shovey.
Wow.
I because my sleep energy just I always am catching myself. My kids use the word chill to describe me a lot. I think that
Wow.
would be a common way that people that know me would describe me. So yeah, the I, I I'm
Double
just not.
M. Wow. Okay.
I'm just not by normal, and but I
Yeah,
don't fit.
that's. I never would have thought to type you the way they did. That's crazy that they picked up. Do you feel that they were accurate with how they typed you?
They said the only options for me were or FF. Uh, I think they were a little bit.
No, but I mean with
Totally
the
not
animals and
sure.
the EJ, like that's
Yeah,
really
the BSC is what I resonate with the
right.
most, and I think that's for me where the real gold is in OP, because, like Carl Jung said, you can't be a whole person until you identify with the animal within you. And in
Right.
our society, that animal within is often repressed or just viewed very crudely as only your shadow side, or animal instincts. But
Right.
OP gives us a language to talk about it in a much more interesting and nuanced way. And like in Native American spirituality talk, they have spirit animals. They have a very high view of animals, and I think OP helps us to think about it much more interesting, and it's a real great complement to the functions. And
Yeah.
it really helps support the functions. So
Right. So okay, so lead TE, how do you see your lead TE express itself?
uh, definitely with my outer persona, like in the workplace setting, like even the nature of the job that I do, I'm all about like design thinking, which is making process improvements based on empathy, where you do like interviews with frontline staff to see how they would be impacted. Or if when I'm asked to write, I'm sometimes hit up to write like letters to our customers, like mass mailings with them saying, you're good at predicting how a customer might react negatively or positively. Can you make sure this letter will resonate with them and not make them freak out? That's how I use TE, and I'm always um, surveying the people in my field, like in my local community, getting ideas. I love that kind of thing, and interacting with all levels of staff. That's how it manifests at work.
Right.
But when I go home, uh, I I kind of take off. I put the TE down. It's
Hmm.
a lot, and then I can tend more to my inner world.
Right. Yeah. Your second animal is sleep and it's sleep above blast. So you're conserving energy a lot. Sorry,
I'm yeah,
sleep above
sleep.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, play is. Yeah, I don't have a lot of uh, good expertise on play, that's for sure. But when I
Like
do
a
things like go
drive.
for
You don't have like a
yeah, go
drive and an ambition, or that's not connected.
oh no, that's a separate. The way they explained it to me in my response video was like when I go for walks and take pictures and put them on Instagram or things like that. That for me, that's play, or
Oh,
doing something spontaneous would be a way to encourage play. So they encourage me
right.
to just up and do something spontaneously and grab somebody and take them with me while I do it. So
Right.
but
Is
that's
it
very easy.
difficult? Is it difficult for you to go in this like what we're doing now, this back and forth mode? It's like it
Mm-mm,
feels like a demon. No,
mm-mm. No, I
no.
don't know, because it's talking about something that interests me a lot. Like the only
Right,
time I get interviewed is like if it's a job interview. So this is fun.
right,
So
right.
this is fun. So no, it's not. This isn't hard for me.
Okay, and so then you have an SI as your second function,
Hmm.
and
Although
so
I would say, I grew up with two lead SI parents and had a lead SI father-in-law, and my SI is just so wimpy and watered down in comparison to that.
But it's
to
still
me with that dark.
the masculine
Um,
SI.
I think it because I'm not really good at details. I often will get criticized about not being detailed enough, like in my reports, things like that. I think my blast kind of dilutes my SI and the TE too, because my TE just wants to be efficient, get plow through the work and get things done. I can be slipshod with details. So I think the way it does manifest would be communication style, especially in writing, including only the relevant details. That works with my blast that way as well. I think because when I think SI, I think of these towering figures I know in my life that were just so good at SI, like the people that I go to when I need something edited, the ISTJ types who are
Right.
just so good at it, and I don't see myself as good at it. So,
Interesting.
but
What is it? What do you see as SI? What do you see as your sensory? How do you experience your sensory?
um, that's a good question. Because I ignore the sensory a lot. I can be really oblivious.
Even though you're savior SI.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I rely on. I mean, I can be really specific about. I follow just a couple of certain people, like for like interior design, mid-century modern design. A couple of bloggers I follow for that. Kind of follow their example. I kind of see the sensory through other people. I try to, really have to force one reason I like birds so much is it forces me to pay attention to the outside world when I'm taking a walk, because
Right.
being BSC, I'm in my head a lot.
Right.
I ruminate a lot. I don't ever talk out loud until I figure out what to say. I figure out what to say before I speak. So,
Even though you're blast above sleep.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
blast for me is all about being concise,
Right.
clear, and because my sweet spot has always been the short form writing. I remember when I was in third grade, the teacher brought in a poet who had a binder full of poetry, and I was absolutely amazed that how people, adults can do. You can grow up and be a poet, and so I was preoccupied with poetry for many years, and then short form writing for publication, just basically my entire life. So
Interesting.
just and then like Strunk White's book Elements of Style, which is all about how to write concisely. Like a film writer told me when I was in college, read this book every month, and I did. And and then John McPhee is a master of writing concisely. So that's kind of the world that I
You're interested in concise and compact
yeah
writing.
yes, and being really clear, which
Right.
might be where the masculine comes from, but for me the masculine is that, but not
Yeah. Double masculine
being really
savior.
sure. It's not the not the smashing on the. It's
Right.
not, nobody would have. I mean, people would laugh that know me to
Right.
if if they thought that was how I was to be described. So
Right. So, but like, okay, so your masculine SI is very structured, very organized, ve-
yes, the
very
information.
precise.
Yeah, my information is structured and organized, and I would say I use journaling a lot. I'm not overly organized, but there's certainly a structure because again, details I don't really have the patience for those. But as far as a structure, very much so. My spreadsheet, whether it's a spreadsheet or my dream journal or my other journals, definitely an overall system which helps give me a sense of peace, so I don't have to think about details so much. And so
Right.
that
So
makes sense.
your second animal goes into FI, which is your demon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
do you feel that when you're in your sleep that you're really looking into what you like, what you
Um,
want, what you
yeah. One way,
value?
on Saturday morning, I spent a few hours just really processing this essay by Ursula Le Guin about the Jungian shadow, and just reading that and taking notes about that in my journal, which is more like a private blog. I use Evernote with notebooks with different topics. I put quotes from people, links to articles, but then my own thoughts. Derek Sivers calls it the thoughts on, having a thoughts on journal. So I was just writing and writing, just for my own private writings about that. And I do that with books. I read John Beebe's book about his 8-function
Yeah.
typology model, just so I'll take my Kindle notes, paste them in there, and then just ruminate and ruminate and ruminate, type my notes, put it away, come back the next week, ruminate and ruminate. So it's organized, but not overly fastidious about it. So that's how my sleep energy works with my FI. Because during the week I'm busy, but when there's a podcast that interests me or something, I bookmark it in my head. And like on Saturday mornings, I'll just really ruminate and go over the new ideas and information I learned the previous week that really captivated me. And then so that's how my SF sleep works. So it's kind of like sleep is how I maintain the flow state in my mind. Is very much how sleep works for me, maintaining that flow state. That's a fancy way
between
of
consume
saying,
and blast.
Or to put it less elegantly, zoning out.
Right.
So I'll get into that mode, even if I'm talking with someone. Sometimes it kind of goes on at the same time as I'm blasting, kind of processing and mentally bookmarking things, but then consuming what the person is saying.
Yeah, your consume seems, I don't know you personally, but your consume seems pretty high for a third function, for a third animal.
Yeah, Dave and Shannon said in my response video that it's activated and that it's pretty much equal to my sleep.
Wow.
I'm not exactly sure how the wiring works. I don't exactly know why.
Okay.
But so I will I try to read a book a week. I don't always succeed. So reading or podcasts, because I can listen to those when driving. I consume those, and then I indulge like in Grace and Frankie on Netflix or whatever. So I do try, but I do feel guilty about the fun consume, like the binge watching. Although I'll do it.
Yeah.
I feel a little guilty about that, but
because you're tribe above self.
Yeah, exactly. And also I feel like it has to kind of engage me cerebrally to justify it, so then I can maybe later share it with others. So the tribe above self.
What about the blast above consume? Do you often end up speaking about things that you don't quite understand yet?
Never.
Or yeah.
No, I tend to not do that, because I want to be really sure. Like if I give a presentation, I just really over prepare it to death. I don't ever really talk off the top of my head.
So information dominant is what your type, your animals are. So you really identify with that.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm totally information dominant. It always fascinates me how like somebody that's blast like sleep will sometimes say, "Oh, I'm such an introvert," or "Oh, I need time alone." "Oh, I got to have time alone." Whereas I don't do that because it's just I just do it naturally.
Right.
And everybody knows I'm an introvert anyway. So
you're an extrovert,
saying, I need time alone. They'd be like, yeah. So I just do it so naturally, getting the solitude and time alone. So it fascinates me when the extroverts will talk a lot about needing the solitude. So that's
a very interesting type. And so then you're also like the glass lizard. So your play shouldn't be too debilitated.
Yeah, because my second and fourth functions are double activated. I'm a glass lizard. I don't really like that word. It needs better branding. But,
it's also applicable to like every type. So I mean,
that's a good point. So it just makes me a little bit more weird. It's more
spread out, more balanced, I guess.
Yeah, could be that too.
Yeah. So you're any you don't have like you don't have a very like direct link to it with your play, but like you'll experience it more with your consume.
Exactly. My consume is NEFI. So then I think John Beebe gives archetype names to the functions, and the third function he calls the eternal child.
Yeah,
And
the child. Yeah.
I can see that for my, because that's can be, I think, more where my sense of humor springs from, and more just a little bit playful. And I like using my any a lot to, one of my favorite quotes is from the novelist E.M. Forster, like, live in fragments, no longer only connect. So connecting the fragments of my life, um, I do that a lot when I'm sleeping, doing
Oh.
the sleep consume.
So you're connecting
Uh,
it to your SI. Like when you said that,
uh-huh.
connecting the fragments of your life, that's like your
Mm-hmm.
SI using the NE to connect.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. And I use it a lot at work because I really love trend analysis, connecting all the dots. I kind of don't like the dot, giving a lot of details about the dots themselves. I don't really like to do, but the big picture, the
Right.
trending, I can toggle back and forth between details and the big picture, but I really like the big picture, and I do get positive feedback about my intuition, and
Right.
sometimes get sought out for that. So I'm, kind of triangling with what others say about me to get a good sense of it rather than relying on my own perspective.
Interesting. So you see
So
yourself
that,
as a double decider then, or double observer, sorry.
yeah, I think I'm,
Yeah.
constantly doing the macro and the micro, the back and forth. I'm doing that
Right.
all the time in my work. Yeah. So with, I enjoy the macro more. I get really anxious when I'm told, can you please put more details? Like,
Right.
yeah. So that, when the details police come after me, it makes makes me anxious, but that's okay.
Nice. Okay, and your NE is do you see it as do you see the world as patterns? Do you see the outer world as NE? Yeah, that's how you experience the other world?
Yeah, I think I do quite a lot. I like, looking at the patterns, and
Externally.
I kind of use it as a because because I can be oblivious to the sensory. The NE kind of helps me wake up to my environment to see
The
what's
patterns
going
around you.
on, and
Oh,
I especially love looking at the patterns in people. I'm doing that all the time with the people, because I know lots of, work or
right.
outside work.
Okay, that sounds like play
Oh,
too.
so it's like, oh, she said, they say something, I'll bookmark it, and then, kind of pay attention to the patterns. I find people analysis extremely interesting. Where I think NE comes into play with that. Um, so I think it certainly comes out more when I'm with my friends,
Right.
and so sometimes, friends have commented on me being multifaceted. So if I'm really relaxed in the conversation, and if the person I'm with is Savior NE, then we can be off to the races. And, oh, did you think about this? Oh, have you read this? And, it can
Right.
kind of be all over, and that's a lot of fun. And I
Right.
really like being with Savior NE people.
Interesting.
That helps spark that within me. So it helps me, NE helps me get out of my head
Right.
in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Interesting. Okay, and like when you said like you like observing people, do you notice that when you're observing people, you're comparing it between your NE and SI? Is that what you're doing? Like the things you
it
learned
could
and
be,
yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
and then how
Yeah,
seeing
because
how the patterns come out in real life, and then yeah,
because certain details will jump out at me, and I kind of file it away. And then, especially details about, because I try to be good at micro follow up. If they said about something that was going on, like if they had a medical appointment or something, and then I try to, follow up a few days, like, oh, how did that appointment go? So people details, I'm pretty good at. I think those are the details that I'm the best at.
right.
And one of my daughters is always saying, when did I tell you that? How did you know that? But one of my other daughters who's in college, she kind of gently said to me the other day, Mom, the reason I call Dad instead of you when I need help with my papers is because you just say, looks good. Whereas
uh,
Dad will like give me all the, uh, explain to me in detail what's wrong with my paper.
right.
but the people, but when I can really remember really well what somebody says to me.
Right.
That's interesting, and then he keeps track of the trends, and so yeah.
Do you see your thinking as a very objective way of thinking? Like, do you always try to think as objectively as possible?
Yeah, in the sense that because I'm tribe over self, yes, the TE is kind of relentless that way, and along with I think my sleep, where I have that built-in check. It's like, okay, well, I better check. It's not so much tip for getting approval, is wanting to make sure
Everyone
that
will agree with a conclusion you come to.
that everyone will agree, and that it will be clear to everyone, and that I've taken everything into consideration, because I don't trust myself for all the details. Also,
Right.
just other people have a lot of interesting insights that make the light bulbs go off, that I want to make sure to incorporate those as well. So
Right. Interesting. Okay, and you said you wanted to you said you're doing a blog and you have all kinds
oh
of
yeah,
interests that you, so I'll put a link for your blog.
oh sure, and then
Is it a
yeah,
typology blog, or what's the blog about?
no, I've had it for over 10 years. It's
Oh,
about
wow.
the copywriting that I do for clients.
Okay.
A short blog post about that, but I do work in
Right.
more philosophical. It eventually will go more in a
Right.
different direction.
Yeah, so
But I also have.
if anyone's interested in very clear, concise writings on copyright or on typology,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. And then Instagram too. I think I'm the only person on there that uses the objective personality hashtag. So if you want to
Oh,
come, you
okay.
follow me on Instagram
All
and
right. Yeah, I'll put all that in the
yeah. Okay.
description. Nice.
Sure.
Do
Yeah,
you
that'd
have
be awesome.
any insights that you want to share? Anything?
Oh yeah, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing with these interviews, because I think it's such a great supplement to the class to see
Right.
people, real people, normal people,
Yeah, I appreciate
out in the
that.
wild. And
Yeah.
I this morning I put a link to your channel in the Q&A notes that I do.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Uh, tried to put it above the fold so people who aren't on the Facebook group can see that. So I think it's a huge asset to the OP community that you're doing
Yeah.
that. So
I'm not always so successful, but I like it's nice. Yeah. And I
yeah.
think also it's like the best way to see this stuff in practice as
Mm-hmm.
well, because like
Oh yeah,
it
totally.
sits in the theoretical world and it's like, well, it's nice that it's a theory, but does it work? Is
Exactly.
it
It's kind of
real?
like a
Yeah.
mechanic. It's like going with a car. If you're only looking at the engine and tinkering with the engine, but never
Yeah.
getting in the car and driving the thing.
Yeah, it's a
So
good
sometimes I
analogy.
get it. Sometimes I get. Sometimes it's like the discussion about OP in some ways isn't nuanced enough, and sometimes it's too detailed, or and
Right.
there's too much discussion about FI, or it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's that.
A bit dry, yeah.
Whereas I like more the things that aren't black and white, more the nuance of it. So that's
Right.
why sometimes I have to refrain from I just kind of bow out of, I'm not into being argumentative anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that car analogy. I thought of another analogy at the same time. I do a lot of coding at work, programming. And
Oh,
so,
cool.
yeah, so I'll write a big block of code. And then when
Uh-huh.
comes time to test it, like you cross your fingers, is it working? So,
Oh,
yeah, that's kind of like the
yeah.
same. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. And
Yeah, totally.
do you have anything like really interesting about your type that you want to share? Something about Demon FI? Something that you think people should know about the kind of EJs that are so introverted like you are?
Um, yeah, just that, yeah, we don't fit the stereotypes
Right.
in any way. Don't fit the animal stereotypes, or the necessary, or the I guess just to realize that OP is 512 types, and that there's not just one blast and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah. Wow. It was really interesting to meet you, Anita, because like I never would have, you know, I never thought about the way this kind of type would express itself. And it's really nice to see how it
Oh yeah, thanks
expresses
so
itself.
much.
Yeah. Very awesome.
Yeah, I
Thank
really appreciate it.
you so much.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad for the opportunity. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Awesome. This was probably really short and concise, which is perfect for you.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Do you have any do you have anything you want to close with? Because we have to say goodbye somehow, and I have to a
Oh,
concise goodbye to
I guess
everyone.
just, I guess that to be kind to yourself and to others, because I think personality typology, I think a lot of, I see it as a way to foster self-acceptance,
Right.
and only when you start to reach that self-acceptance can you start to address your shadow side. It's a good
Yeah.
tool for
Especially
your
for you
shadow
with your
side
demon
too.
FI. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But and I think Myers-Briggs has been dissed quite a lot, for good reason. But
Right.
as somebody, I grew up before, like I know Thomas and Amanda talked about how they grew up with books about typology laying around the house. But I grew up in a time when the burnt. I was born about 10 years too soon for that, when
Mm-hmm.
introversion was kind of viewed as there was something wrong with you. And
Wow. Yeah.
it wasn't until the 1980s where those books came out. And then, like in 2003, the Atlantic Monthly had this really great article called How to Care for Your Introvert. Like, how? And then Susan Cain's book in 2012 about introversion, the power of introverts in a world that won't stop talking. Um, but MBTI, I think, has helped depathologize introversion at least a little bit. And I know there's probably a lot of introverts out there who think they're INFJs and they're not.
Right.
But if they're feeling a little bit more comfortable with themselves because as introverts because of it, I think that's just such a great gift.
Oh,
A
nice.
really
That's a
good
good sentiment.
thing. And that's how I view the typology, is for us just to remove the stigmas from ourselves, and also the extroverts where, there's stigmas associated with every type, to remove those stigmas, and then also to, of course, address our shadow side and be in touch with it, which I think the animals help with a lot. So
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much, Anita. It was very
yeah,
nice talking to you for sure.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a
thanks a
great
lot.
sentiment to end on. So
Okay,
yeah. Have a
great.
good one.
Okay.